Come on, man. Look at the washed king. Look at him. Look at him.
Stop it.
Oh, my goodness. That offseason did him good, it looks like.
Right.
Back to his playing weight, fresh above the rim.
Penn State, Bucknell, Nittany Lions forward. Lamar Stevens driving baseline, finishes with a reverse slam.
Man, it's great to see that this is back, right? We've been spending so much time at the three-point line the last couple seasons. Let's get back to the rim.
Yeah, but once again, our highlight folks pick these tiny colleges getting picked on. We had Colgate kid getting crossed over. Now, of course, the Bucknell kid's going to get taken baseline. He goes to Bucknell, man. This other kid goes to Penn State. That ain't right.
Ball is life. Everyone can get it.
Okay.
Washington, Maine. Isaiah Carter gets the steal, throwing down the windmill.
Hold on. I can't do that.
No.
No. I can't. I've never been able to do that.
Look at that. That's a big-time play by a college kid, man. Getting up in transition.
How about this? New Orleans high school basketball, St. Augustine forward Jason Malbrew switching hands in midair for that right there.
Do you understand what it takes to be able to do that? The body control in the air, tracking the ball down, then grabbing it one hand and freaking finishing with the next.
I like the dad in the crowd, hands on his head. What did I just see?
That's awesome. Not as awesome. Carmelo Anthony made his debut.
Hold on.
I'm sorry, was that a bad transition?
Hold on.
Okay, I forgot. I got two Melo lovers right here. Portland Trailblazers in action last night, taking on the Pelicans. First game for Melo since November 8th of last year. He got the start. He brushed off some rust with 10 points, 4 of 14 from the field. Head coach Terry Stotts called his night pretty good. Blazers came up short losing the game, but Melo's first night is now behind him.
I think the greatest feeling of it all was to feel wanted, by a group of guys who believe in me and my talent and what I can bring to the game. And it wasn't just the players; it was the coaching staff. They really showed a strong level of belief in what I can still do.
Nick, does the Melo project work in Portland?
I hope so, and I don't think last night's an indicator of really anything of what we're going to see for a number of reasons. One is it's Melo's first NBA game in over 365 days. So, he was not going to be the best version of himself. Second of all, and maybe most importantly, Portland's without their best player. And Portland without Damian Lillard, right now they were struggling with Damian Lillard. They are as reliant on him as any individual team is on one player in the league, aside from maybe Giannis and the Bucks. If he's not out there, everything changes for them. For Melo, though, the most difficult adjustment is going to be how willing he is to accept a tertiary role on this team, not even a secondary role, but a third or fourth role on this basketball team. And I know some people are going to say, well, look at what Dwight Howard has done with the Lakers. Dwight Howard was humble. Dwight Howard bounced around a bit. He then went to the Lakers and accepted his role and is thriving in his role. It's going to be tougher for Melo because of this. Dwight Howard at his core, at his best, was a rebounder and a defensive player.
Yeah.
And that is exactly what his role is with the Lakers. A rebounder and defensive player just in small bursts. Melo at his best, and really his only, throughout his career, A+ skill, was a go-to scorer. He is not going to be the go-to guy for the Blazers, except for in small segments of minutes if he comes off the bench, if he is with that bench unit. So can Melo be a positive addition within the flow of an offense when he's not your go-to scorer, when we know he's going to struggle somewhat defensively? Those are the questions. With all that said, I'm thrilled he's back in the league. He deserved to be in the league. The idea that he wasn't good enough to be on a roster was insane, but he obviously has to be better than he was last night, and maybe a little more judicious with his shot selection than he was last night. I think he will be. Last night was about knocking the rust off to a degree, but the question is, what role will he have, and how okay with it will he be?
Yes. Wow. There's so much here. I absolutely love Melo in this situation, and it will work. And the reason why it will work is because...
You love the theory of Melo being in this situation.
Not the theory,
him actually on the Trailblazers.
100%. First of all, right, he's coming into a situation where it's a really good team, but they're 5-10, okay? They're 5-10. So all this talk about Melo hurting the team and now the team is losing, that's gone. That's over with. One of the things that never leaves you, you can play any sport in the world, okay? But one thing when it comes to basketball never leaves you is being able to score the basket. You can see grown men and grown women at 60 years old playing pickup basketball in the park or in gyms, the YMCA, and guess what? They still have that shot. You can't teach that. You look at last night, Carmelo Anthony's shots that he missed. Posting up, spinning to the basket, trying to finish. That's rust. But that type of play, you can't teach. What I'm looking at is, how does he bend? Does he have the mobility? Is he still quick? Can he move? He absolutely can still move. So when you put Carmelo Anthony in this situation, he makes this team better. Some will say, oh, Melo, look at him last night. He was 4 for 14. Like, this is rusty. He's rusty. This will never work. But do you understand what happens with a professional athlete when you get that call? And now you have to make life decisions that take 3 months, 6 months, and 2 hours. The type of conversations he's having with his wife. Are you guys staying in New York? Where does the kids go? I have to pack a bag. How much clothes to pack? So now you have this guy in 48 hours getting this call, then getting on the plane and traveling there and all this emotional stuff going on, and people are looking at 4 for 14. What do you expect? What do you expect? You can put any guy in that situation, whether it's a football player getting a call saying, hey, you get a workout. The anxiety, the decisions that you have to make, and those moments and those hours definitely affects you on the court. So Carmelo Anthony, to me, showed last night, one, I looked at him being able to move. Can he still move? 17th year in the NBA, he can still move. Now it's all about him knocking down a shot. Last thing is this. As an athlete, and you're going into a new situation, new locker room, a lot of times it don't work because of chemistry. Right? So what he said was, this is a team that wanted me, not only from coaches, players, but everyone in the organization wanted me. When you don't have that pressure and that anxiety and you can just fit right in, man, it's over. Well,
I'll add one other thing real quick, Jenna, is that where I think the Blazers did not do Melo any favors because of exactly what you're discussing about, and you talked about this a lot before the show, about how difficult the last 72 hours were just from a logistical standpoint, just from going from one coast to the other, getting ready, and then all of a sudden you're playing. I don't think they should have started him. And I understand his best moments were his opening moments of the game, but I think even if they were to tell Melo, at some point our plan is for you to be a starter, similar to what the Lakers did with Kyle Kuzma. Kyle Kuzma was injured. He wasn't just acquired, but he was injured. By the time he was ready to play, it's like, Kuz, you're going to come off the bench. We're going to try to run some plays for you through our second unit. Your minutes are going to be limited. That way, there's less of a pressure on him instantly.
But no, this was the perfect situation. Dame isn't playing, right?
Well, and I think that's one of the reasons.
Even when you look at 4 for 14 in his shot selection, you let him do that. This is his space where Melo can go in. There's no pressure. Go have at it. Go shoot. Go knock the rust off.
But what was the problem with Melo, or what was the issue that Melo had? His biggest issue that we all heard about in Houston, it was he didn't want to come off the bench, or he had issues with that. There's as much a mental aspect to this as there is a physical one. I'm sure the shot's eventually going to be there, but he also has to mentally wrap his head around what his new role is. And these aren't just words he threw out there. He already had issues with this in another location. How does he all of a sudden have no issues now and he's fine? I think to your point as well, I would agree, and I was going to say that starting him now, eventually you're going to have to go backwards and take him out of that starting lineup. Perhaps whatever Terry Stotts decides to do, you wonder how he handles that.
One of the things, if you read or if you watch his press conference after the game, one of the things he talked about was transparency. You have to be transparent with players. Players don't BS players, don't beat around the bush, shoot players straight.
You think they told him?
In Houston, that was a situation clearly where they wasn't shooting him straight. They wasn't transparent. He said the first thing that we talked about was transparency. What is my role? I'm willing to accept whatever you give me if you tell me right now. As an aging player, you know, especially what he's been through. Another thing that he talked about was, I miss the team bus, the team locker room, the team lunch, being around the guys. See, we'll talk about Antonio Brown later, but see, that's when you go through these type of experiences, you really quickly, you start putting things in perspective, what really matters. For him, he understands that this is my role, I have to accept it, and if I want to be on this team, I have to do X, Y, and Z that was already laid out from the beginning.
But how hard is it? Because you obviously, you were a star in Chicago, you're a star in Denver, you had arguably the single best year of your career with the Jets, and then later in your career, you're a role player.
That's right.
And then your last year with Seattle, they bring you in, you're there
That's a
with a
perfect
very
example.
specific role. How hard is it to go from a guy who not that long ago was 1,500 yards to I have a very specific role, and how difficult's that going to be for Melo?
It's hard, but you have to, what's your why? What are you trying to accomplish? For me, I was to try 1,000 receptions and win a Super Bowl. That was my goal. I was going to be able to accomplish that there. Transparency. The Seattle Seahawks brought me in and said, you are going to help us in the red zone and on third down. We're going to move you inside to play the Larry Fitzgerald role, right? That's what happened. As soon as I get in camp, guess who goes down? Doug Baldwin. So now I'm thrown into that starting position. I actually go out to the first game, score 2 touchdowns. Everything is looking great, right? And now they're like, oh, we can do more, we can do more. We play against the Dallas Cowboys. We just talked about it, just dove into X's and O's. Yeah. First thing on the show, right? Talking about the Dallas Cowboys. We go against Dallas Cowboys, and I had a rough game, a first half. Coach Carroll's freaking out now. Now we're sitting at 2-2. And he's like, now you got to go to the bench. And that was hard for me because they threw me into a position where now I'm the starting guy and
you went from you were going to be a red zone threat to a starter, and now you're a bench player, and there wasn't consistency in what the role was going to be.
And not even playing. Now I'm not touching the field.
Right.
That was the problem. Was now what happened to that role you had for me being inside and also being that red zone guy. Totally fine with that. I wasn't even playing.
Right, and so for Melo, the one thing is he's not going to not play. I don't know if he's going to start. I don't know if he's going to come off the bench.